Okay, so we're making really good progress here. We've got our BBC News header and we've got our article on the left, which all looks pretty good. The only thing we're going to do now to finish this off is the watch listen box on the right there. So let's get started straight away. You notice it's got a grey background there. So let's use our clicker to get the HTML code of that background. And then we'll create a new div. This div will float right. So it goes to the right of everything else that we've done so far. So let's call it, it can be an ID because there's only one of these, watch listen. Close the div there. And then let's see. Oops. So we'll set the background color to that. We'll float it to the right and we'll give it width. And for the moment, we'll give it a height as well, just so that we can see it. Okay, so there it is. That's fine. It definitely needs to be a fair bit wider. Let's go for 300 pixels. Great, maybe a little bit more. That's too much. Okay, great. I think that looks good. It looks to me like it's a little bit low down, so let's use our relative positioning to move it up. Give it a relative position and top. I think it needs to go up quite a lot, but not quite that much. Okay, yeah, I think that's great. So watch listen. So there's our box. We'll get rid of the height for the moment because we'll probably just want it to take the height of whatever content is within it. So let's start. It's got that quite big watch listen text in it. That looks like a header to me, so let's call it an H2. And we'll select the color that we need once again from here. It might well be that it's the same color as the text, but we'll leave it as it is, just to make sure we get it right. So we'll set our H2 color to that. Now notice I'm using a general H2 here because I know this is the only H2 I'm going to use. It might well be that there are other H2s which have a different color. If that was the case, then we'd need to set a particular class for this H2. But as far as I can see, it was perfectly reasonable to set this as a general H2 color. So let's have a look, see how that fits in. Okay, it's not too bad to start with. I think it needs to be a little larger, and we need to change the padding a little bit there. So let's first of all, by just setting everything to 0 just to see what's happening. Yep, so it's that margin that's moving it down. So let's have 10 pixels. Doesn't matter what we have on the right. Bit of padding on the bottom would probably help, and then we'll maybe a little bit more on the left. So that kind of thing looks good. In fact, their padding on the left is the same. So let's keep it as 10 pixels. Great, does need to be a little bit larger. So let's go for a font weight of, font size of 1.3 EM, too small. Let's try 2 EMs. Okay, tiny bit too big. 1.8. Great. Okay, that looks good. We've got these little boxes here. I'm just going to copy those as an image. It's a little bit lazy, but it'll get the job done. Great. Moving everything over so I can see it. We'll just call it boxes. And we'll we'll copy that into our images folder. Move that back up. And we'll put that in just as an image. So images, boxes.png, and we'll give it a class of boxes because we're going to want to float it to the right and probably move it up and down a little bit. So boxes, we'll float it right. Let's just see how that looks. Whoops. Colons and semicolons, very different things. Okay, so not bad. I think actually what we want to do is put the image before that the H2. And then the H2 won't be affected because the image is floated. But the image won't take space up underneath the H2. So that's better, but we do obviously need a little bit of padding there. We'll go for margins this time. So we'll have a margin, a top margin of 10 pixels, a right margin of, let's try 10 as well, and we don't care about the bottom or the left. Okay, that's not bad. I think the right margin is fine, but we do want to move it down a little bit. So let's have a 20 pixels top margin. Okay, I think that looks good. Nice. Okay. Now, getting onto these bits here, we're going to need to do a fair bit of screenshotting here. So let's screenshot each individual image. So we've got that bit there. We'll do them all at once. Now with these images, it's quite important that we actually get them completely right. So I'm going to do a quick bit of editing in the image viewer here. If you've got an image editing program on your machine, that would be great. But it's very easy on a Mac if you just double click there. So the important thing is we want to get rid of this white space around the edge because we're going to want everything to be exactly the same size. So I just want that. So I can use Command K to crop that image to just be exactly what I want. And then I'm just going to save it there, close that window, and I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Let's zoom in and get rid of anything that's not a direct part of that image. Problem is, if we don't do this, it's going to be very difficult to make everything line up and be at the right height. Get rid of that bit of orange there. Of course, if you don't want to spend a lot of time doing this cropping, you can just use the images in the download for this bit of the course. But I'm just going through the whole process so you can see what I've done. Okay, great. Let's close down those windows. So we'll call that left arrow. We'll call that pick 1. We'll call that pick 2. And we'll call that right arrow. Okay, and then we'll select all of those and drag them in. Great. So let's work our way across from left to right. So on the left, we've just got this image here. You'll notice there's a nice sort of white border there that just gives a nice separator from everything. So let's pop it in right in the code. So src is images left arrow, and we'll give it a class of left arrow. Where we go. So left arrow. We definitely want to float this left, and we want a border on the right of 1px solid white. Okay, looks good. I can't see the border there, it's not very clear, but hopefully it'll become clearer when we put in the next image. So now we want this bottom bit here to be part of or just below this image here. So I'm going to create a div which contains both this image and the text on the orange background there. So I'll call it class WL for watch listen block. Close div there, and we will start with an image src images pick one, I called it. I'm not sure if we'll need a class for that one yet, so we'll leave it as it is for the moment and see how it looks. And we'll just copy the text. It's a link, so we'll put it in a paragraph tag and a link tag. Right, so I've done quite a lot there. Something I'm definitely going to need to do is float that left. So this is WL block. We want to float left. Okay, not too bad. So we're going to need to sort out that link there, give it a certain width, but you can now see that that white border is coming in quite nicely, and we need a background. So there's a few things to sort out there. Let's get the background sorted first. Color is that. Now, the way to get the width is just going to be exactly the same as the width of the pictures. So on a Mac you can use right click and get info. On a Windows system there's a very similar option, I forget what it's called, but you should be able to find out the width of an image here. So that image is 157 pixels wide. So let's give this a width of 157 pixels. And while we're here, we're going to need a border right as well. Okay, great. So that 157 pixels looks really good. It's exactly what we wanted there. Now we've got an issue with this link. We definitely want to change the color. Now this is underlined. We're actually, if you notice, all of the links on the BBC website are not underlined unless you hover. So I think it would make sense to go back to our instruction here and actually make this for all links. So the color was specific to news items, but the fact that they're not underlined when they're just normal links and then underlined when you hover over them, it's true of all links on this page. So if we do that, that will affect every link. So that will save us doing it individually for each different type of link. Nice. Now we definitely want to change the link color here. So WL block A, color white. Okay, great. And I've just refreshed the page there, which isn't ideal. We've now lost the precise images that we had, but that's okay. We can carry on. So I think we just need to add in a bit of padding to this. Text here. So let's first of all get rid of all the padding that's there. I suspect that it's the P tag that's giving the padding there. Yep. So let's add in a margin of 10 pixels all the way around. Okay, not too bad. Now you notice that we're going over the bottom a little bit there, so we're too tall. So let's change the margins to be 8 pixels at the top and then 10 pixels on each side. See how that looks? Okay, slightly too short. Let's make it 9 at the top and bottom. Slightly too long. We'll make it 8 at the bottom. There we go. Nice. Okay, great. It's actually looking slightly off. No, it's fine. Sometimes when you zoom, you get slightly strange effects because the pixels are a little bit out. But that's fine. Okay, so we've got our second one now. We've lost the headline, unfortunately, because I refreshed the page, but we'll carry on regardless. So if we just repeat that section, so create another WL block. Sadly, I don't have the content of that link anymore, but that's fine. Looking good. Okay, great. So now we've got both of those, and finally we just want to put in the image of the right arrow. So we'll have an image there, and we want it to be right arrow. We don't want a border on the right this time, so we're going to need to change the class. Okay, not bad. We've got a bit of an issue with that image coming out a little bit too far there. Okay, that could be a problem with my cropping by the looks of things. So let's see what I've done here. If we have a look at this image, get info, it's actually 158, so it could be that I cropped the other one a little bit too far. But the easiest way to fix that is to just crop this one a little bit more. So we'll just chop out a pixel there. That should do the trick. And we'll save that. Nice. Okay. Great. So we've got a little bit of space left over on the right there. So we're going to need to make this whole div a little bit shorter. I think we guessed it. Was it around 280 pixels? Where were we? 380 pixels. So that's pretty good. A little bit smaller, I think. 6.8. I think that's pretty bang on. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I think that looks excellent. Now we just need to add these links underneath, and then our work is done. So this might look like an image, but I think this is actually text, that little live link there. Or at least we're going to recreate it as text because we can. So BBC News Channel, Radio 5 Live, Osborne questioned on the budget. So let's do those as... Oh, they've got nice little lines underneath them, haven't they? So let's do them as paragraphs. We could do them as ULs as well. In fact, that might be a neater solution. Yeah, let's do ULs. And that might give us an option to use the list style image option. Yeah, which would be quite fun. So first of all, let's just add these three in. So Radio 5 Live, budget, okay, just separate those out so they look nice. Right, okay, so they're there, but they're not particularly convincing yet. We want to make them links so we get this underline effect. So let's do that. Set that to each of those. Okay, nice, and that looks like it's set them to more or less the right color as well. So let's make the list style. So the bullet for this list is actually going to be the live option there, or that live image. So let's get the image first of all. I haven't done that very well. Let's zoom in. Great. Move everything out of the way. So I'll take the second screenshot, rename it live, and then bring it in. Okay, so if we search for list styles CSS, it'll take us to W3 Schools. With any luck, you may have had a look at this already if you were looking further at our list styles. But we've just used the list style is none option to take it away. There are various other ones you can use. So circle is the default, square is another option, and various other options. What we're going to use here is this one. So list style image, and then you can set a URL as being your actual list image, which is quite nice for what we want to do here. So one way to change the list style image is to do it using this command, list style image, and set the URL there. There's a problem with that different browsers, Firefox, Chrome and Safari, do display that slightly differently, and they'll shift it up and down a little bit. So another way to do it is a similar way to how we set these images over here, and that's use a background image. So we'll do it that way for cross-browser compatibility. So going back over here, we've got our links over there. Let's get our watch listen div up. So for the LI, we want to set the list style to none. And we want to set that background image again. To save us retyping, I'm going to use the same information that we used before. So we've got background image, background repeat, no repeat, and we want left center. That's great. So let's set it to live.png. Brilliant. Okay, so live is now there, that's great, but we do need a bit of padding. In fact, we're going to need more than just a little bit of padding, so let's make it 5 pixels at the top. Don't care about the right, 5 pixels at the bottom, and let's try 20 pixels on the left. Okay, this is coming together, but we definitely need a bit more padding all round, I think. So let's try 10, 10, 10, 40. Great. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Just a little bit more padding on the left. Let's make it 50 instead of 40. And I think we do need the font size to be a bit bigger. Let's try 1.8 EM. Great. It's a little too large. Excellent. Okay, I'm really liking this. It's looking great. The only thing I want to add now is these nice little lines that we've got underneath those top two there. It's a nice sort of separator. So if we can, let's get the color. Can be difficult to track down the slightly darker color. Let's get rid of our developer tools. That will probably help. Zoom in a bit further. Ah, there it is. String of Ds. Not easy to catch. Now, notice though that we only want a bottom border on those top two LIs. And we also want the border to come in a little bit there. So we can do both of those things. The way we'll deal with that this time is we'll have a class in that LI. Let's call it BB for border bottom. And then only the elements with a class of BB will be given that bottom border. So 1px solid. Okay, let's have a quick look at that. Great. Okay, I'm liking that, but we definitely need a bit of padding around the edge of the whole thing. So let's first of all set the margin for the UL to 0. Okay, that's good. I just want to move everything over to the left before we move it in. Okay, so I think it's a simple way of adding just 10 pixels all the way around. That should do the job. I think that looks pretty good. We maybe have slightly too much padding on the top now and not enough on the left. So let's make that 0 on the top, 0 on the right. No, we want a bit of padding on the right and on the bottom and on the left. So let's just see how that looks. Great. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we haven't completely replicated everything, but we've made a pretty good stab at this. It's a pretty nice reconstruction of the BBC News webpage, or at least the top part of it. So that concludes the CSS section of this course. I'm going to set a second challenge at this point, which is to create your own website, essentially. So we've used the copying of the BBC website as a nice opportunity to learn a bit of CSS, to practice actually making something. What we haven't done a great deal of is actually been creative and made something ourselves. But now that you have the tools to do so, I suggest you get out there and make something for yourself. And I'd really like to see what you've managed to make. So as soon as you've put something together at this stage of the course for yourself, put it up there, get it on the web, mention it in the forums, and I'll take a look. And now we're going to go on and have a look at JavaScript and making your website interactive. So congratulations on making it this far, and I look forward to seeing you again in Chapter 3.